The Rivers of Blood Katana is one of the most devastating weapons in Elden Ring. Dealing massive amounts of damage with its corpse piler weapon art, it can bleed your opponent before they're even able to say, "What the fuck is this?" And the game kind of justifies this weapon in that it's found towards the very end of the game. But what if you could get it without fighting anything? And at the beginning of the game at that. In today's video, I aim to do just that. The first thing I did before starting my journey was check eBay for an Xbox Series X. You see, my intention was to buy a console and run the unpatched disc version of Elden Ring. That way I could pull off a major glitch that was required to attain the Rivers of Blood Katana early. After scoring a Series X for $370 and a copy of Elden Ring for $30, I was ready to make my $400 video. Don't say I never did anything for you guys. I disabled the internet on the Xbox and popped the disc in so I could download the unpatched version of the game. The journey began in the character selection screen. I chose Bandit for my class as their stats are pretty close to the stats required to wield the Rivers of Blood. I named my character Shreddy Krueger 2 and began sculpting him in Freddy's image. I should explain. In April 2022, shortly after Elden Ring had come out, I made a video showing how to get the Rivers of Blood right away. To this day, it almost has 1 million views. And those were the good old days, before the game was patched to hell and back. Shreddy Krueger made his first appearance in that video, and now it's high time that he comes out of hiding, so to speak. I did my best to make Krueger come to life, and I think I did pretty good. If he was wearing the fucking hat, it would be uncanny. Exiting the grave, the sun made me wince. I felt the breeze on my ass cheeks. I made my way to Merchant Caelid. From Merchant Caelid, I purchased one of his finest torches to navigate the darkness later in my journey. Then it was time to make my way to Melina the Finger Maiden. She told me that I didn't get any bitches and that she would be my baby, but only until I took her where she needed to go.
Hey yo, these hoes ain't never been loyal.
But the most important thing is that she gave me a horse named Torrent. Torrent would be heavily utilized on my journey to get the Rivers of Blood Katana. With the horse in my possession, it was time to make sure the Pegasus glitch worked. And I'll talk about that glitch more later. I'd been out of practice for almost 2 years, but after a few tries, the glitch worked. I loaded into the game and appeared off of my horse, which is not supposed to be possible as your horse only exists while you're riding it.
Oh yeah.
Making sure the glitch was possible was half the battle, or at least a large part of it. I bolted on down the road and made my way towards a gold pickled fowl foot. I snatched it up nice and quick like, since I'd be needing it in the near future. Then I headed on over to Mistwood, or as I like to call it, Bearsville. It's a forest, crawling with hairy sons of bitches, ready to sink their teeth into your honeycomb. You stop for 1 freaking second and you've got a chunk taken out of your ass. But with my butt cheeks intact, I snatched up the Mistwood map fragment and set my sights on Fort Height. Fort Height housed one half of the Dectus Medallion, which was an item I needed to use to gain access to Altus Plateau. The guys at Fort Height were happy to see me. They were going to get real trigger happy about it. They made me feel welcome by having a pumpkin-headed nutcase greet me at the door.
No one scares Freddy Krueger. Nobody.
I grabbed the Dectus Medallion half and warped to the Mistwood outskirts site of Grace. Before I knew it, I made my way to the Third Church of Marika. While I was there, I prayed for Dad to come back home with a gallon of milk, and not 2 half-gallons of soy milk like last time. And after my short prayer, I went behind the church to suck on my vape, and I spotted a portal. Naturally, I stuck my hand inside of it. What? It felt good. I was warped to Greyol's Dragon Barrow, a treacherous area that'll chew you up and spit you out if you're on a high level. Melina the Finger Maiden showed up again and brought me to the Round Table Hold. I thought she was bringing me to a brothel, but it was really just a place filled with dudes. I cut out like a pocket knife back to Greyhole's dragon butthole. I raced down the hill and was taunted by some high-level Oompa Loompa looking motherfuckers, and then I breezed past a huge dragon. I spotted an Erd tree and rode behind it into a spirit spring that took me up to Fort Faroth. It was time to bring out that trusty torch I bought earlier. Running into Fort Faroth with torch held high, I breezed past a bunch of vampire bats and climbed a long ladder. At the top of the ladder was the right half of the Dectus Medallion. But I still needed something inside the fort, and that something was Radagon's Source Seal, an invaluable talisman that would raise my vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity by 5, getting my stats that much closer to be able to wield the katana I sought after. I dodged a bunch of bastard rats and jumped down a hole and grabbed Radagon's Source Seal. Then I warped out of that shithole back outside. Now this part's a bit of a disclaimer, or fine print if you will. This run's essentially a pacifist run where I don't fight anything, but the thing is, I kinda need to kill a sleeping, sick dragon down the hill. I know it's technically an enemy, but it's not really a battle. And the reason I kill it is to level up to be able to wield the Rivers of Blood effectively. I didn't have to do it per se, but I caught the son of a bitch sleeping with my fucking wife.
He's gotta go. There ain't no two ways about it.
This is another part where the bandit class choice comes into play. Bandits start with a dagger, which is a bleed weapon, and the only way to kill this dragon is to bleed proc it over time. When I had the dragon close to dead, I cracked my gold pickled foul foot. Then it was sayonara. Lights out. Upon the dragon's death, I was awarded 33,000 runes, which is around 60,000 runes less than what you get with the game's current patch. Just fucking great. Well, at least I had enough runes to work with to level me just right. With all my prep work done, now it was time to put things into practice. I raced over to Liurnia of the Lakes to the gates in front of the School of Magic. I'd need a key to be able to pass through the front gate. I know, you don't actually need the key to get to the Bellum Highway, but it actually ends up being quicker. I hopped up off the bridge and set my sights on the sleeping dragon who was guarding the key. The frat guys must have been giving it non-alcoholic beers, because it sure wasn't sleeping when I got there. Again, I was running the game unpatched, so this is one of the things that was changed later on. Luckily, the dragon left me to my own devices, and I scooped up the key, then warped back to Raya Lucaria Gate. Slipping through the gate, I avoided the frat party for lack of time, and phased through another gate to the Bell End Highway. Torrent galloped at the speed of light down the highway. Boom! Suddenly, I was hit by a catapult from one of the rival colleges. They were lucky I was making a video where part of the main focus was not fighting. I managed to dodge everything else they threw at me and finally arrived at the Dectus lift at the opposite end of the highway. Hell yeah! I was so close. I rode the lift all the way up to Altus Plateau, a bit closer to heaven. I rode a pathway all the way to the forest-spanning Great Bridge, Site of Grace. It was here that a waygate would warp me where I needed to go. After I warped, I was confused where I was at. I wanted my fucking money back. Another difference with the unpatched version of the game, apparently. But it was close enough, so I rode on. Here's where I explain the Pegasus glitch more thoroughly. In order to execute the glitch properly, you ride Torrent and hop off. While still in the air, you quickly exit the game, and upon loading back in, Torrent is separate from you. Now that's only one half of the glitch. The next half is more complicated, as you need to edge off a cliff and exit the game again. If you do the second part right, Torrent will spawn in and fall off the cliff. Here's where the trouble began. I couldn't seem to get the second part of the glitch to work. Every time I spawned back in, Torrent was standing there with his ass sticking out. Alive instead of dead. You know what they say, you can lead a horse to a cliff, but you can't make it fall off. After much grief and time spent, my game froze. Weird. I hadn't yet had that happen in all my time doing this glitch. I thought, well, whatever, I'll just restart the game. Upon me trying to do so, the game wouldn't let me in at all. I didn't even have the option to start a new game since the game would just load eternally. My save was corrupted and I would have to delete it, starting my journey all over again. I began anew, and Shreddy Krueger 2 was no more. In his place was a character I aptly named Corrupt Save. I had a moment of silence for Shreddy Krueger, but found comfort in the fact that he never really dies. Just goes away for a while. I did all the shit again. Bearsville, Fort Height, Grey Holes, Dragon Butthole, Fort Faroth, Bleed the Dragon, you get the gist. I finally arrived at the Windmill Village where I was eager to finally pull off the glitch. And I finally got it. What the f***? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Look at this shit. The horse won't even fall off the edge. He's making me look like an idiot. This goddamn video is supposed to revive my YouTube career and he's fucking everything up. Let's try again, shall we? Oh my god, I'm gonna have a fucking conniption. I'm stuck inside of the horse. Everything went wrong until it went right. I found the perfect spot to execute the second half of the glitch without fail. Loading back in, my horse had fallen, and now the show could finally start. And whistling for my horse, he appeared, imbued with special powers. Torrent could fly! I did a victory lap on the edge of the rocks. I was finally ready to get the coveted Rivers of Blood. And now you see where the glitch gets its Pegasus name. The Flying Horse! Well, sort of. Essentially, with this glitch, Torrent will stay at whatever elevation you bring him to, and you can only ascend using land or mountainsides. It was time to get to work. I traveled up to the Windmill Village and passed half of the foreskin duo. Floating in the air, I could feel the wind caressing my cheeks. I was heading towards the Forbidden Lands. The journey was a peaceful one, and I took in the beauty of the lands between. I sat for a while, staring up at the mountaintops of the giants. That place would be the last stop in my journey for the katana. An ancient Chinese proverb once said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I was quite a few steps into mine, and I couldn't stop now. I drew closer and closer to the Forbidden Lands. I was so close I could almost feel the snow fallen on my head. Then suddenly, my game crashed. My mind raced with anxiety. Oh no, what if my save's corrupt again? What if I have to start all over again? Fucking A, what am I gonna do? Luckily, the save file wasn't ruined, and I appeared where I last touched the ground at Windmill Village. Okay, no sweat, just gotta do it again. No big deal. I flew towards the Forbidden Lands again, and again, the game froze. My third attempt was going swimmingly until I ran into a kill box. Kill boxes exist in certain areas where upon falling from a ledge, the camera changes to show your character cinematically plunging to their death. Superman's got kryptonite, and the Pegasus glitch has kill boxes. This wasn't my first rodeo, and I knew that all I had to do was maneuver up the rocks onto the land, quit game, and load back in with a normal camera. But the game froze again, and again, and again, and again. I came to the cruel realization that this wasn't going to work. It either had to do with the game having virtually no bug fixes since it was unpatched, or it had to do with it being the disc version. I only ever had the experience of doing it on the PS5 digital version right before the 1.4 patch. Son of a shit, now it's down $400. Sometimes life doesn't work out, and actually, for me, it's all the time. How am I going to pay my rent? This video was supposed to make me a star. I was going to be somebody. Now, all I have to show for it is crickets jumping out of my wallet. After much deliberation and tears shed, I made the decision to downpatch my PC version and start all over again for a third time. The third character was to be named Third Time's the Charm. The third time was a charm indeed. I made my way to the Windmill Village, flawlessly performed the Pegasus glitch, and hovered on over towards the Forbidden Lands. I was a ninja. My kung fu was strong. Nothing could stop me, except for maybe a big titty goth girlfriend. And wouldn't you know it, I arrived at the Forbidden Lands without the game crashing. All bets were on. I touched down and I quickly got the sight of grace. Here I would have to pull off the Pegasus glitch again, and it took me a little while to find a perfect spot to carry out the maneuver again, but the side of the castle worked flawlessly. Yes! After that little hiccup, I headed on the natural path through the Forbidden Lands, and when I came upon the gargoyle boss, I gracefully peeled off the side of the cliff. This part of the journey separates the wimps from the pimps, so to speak. I'd have to gain altitude by riding against the side of the mountain, slowly but surely. Here's a small montage of me making my way up the rocks. I made my way high up the rocks, and the mountaintops of the giants were in my view. I need to be careful here, though, as the mountaintops of the giants' side was filled with kill boxes. I headed on over to the Flame Peak side to gain more altitude. I felt like Rocky Balboa on one of his runs, wondering if it was all worth it, suffering through the pain and monotony, hoping it would all pay off. But I knew the juice would be worth the squeeze when it was all said and done. Here's another montage of me gaining height on the side of Flame Peak. When I finally had enough height to avoid the kill boxes, I shot towards the mountaintops of the giants like a bullet. I was finally back on land, and I had a big boner from it, but I was severely underleveled for the area, so to avoid having to start again, I touched the site of grace at the Zamor ruins. All of the hard parts of my journey were over, and I wouldn't even need to perform the Pegasus glitch again, but my horse was still graced with the gift of flight, so what the hell, right? Still, I followed the natural path on the mountaintops, narrowly missing the spear-throwing giant. And as the cold wind tore at my face like razor blades, I bypassed the frost dragon. Further up the mountain, I was a referee at a distance, watching two birds fight a yeti. I couldn't tell who was winning, but they all put up one hell of a fight. The yeti reminded me of Stone Cold Steve Austin in his prime. I could have stayed all day and watched this go down, but I had a destiny further up the mountain in the Church of Repose. On my way up to the church, I said hi to the fire giant, and he promptly one-shotted me with a snow-flinging attack. Another asshole who was lucky that I was abstaining from violence this run. Back to the task at hand, I arrived at the Church of Repose. On cue, an ancient samurai named Bloody Finger Okina spawned in. He wielded the sacred weapon that I ventured here for. He followed me over to a cliff edge where I did a kneel tactic. He's gonna fall off like an idiot. Whoa! I was 1-0 with Okina, and it was time to settle the score, the new school way, where you don't fight at all. I promptly fell off the ledge, and in a sick kind of Romeo and Okina sewer slide pact, he jumped off after. The Rivers of Blood Katana was finally in my possession, and I didn't have to fight nobody to get it, and I got it right away. Sorta. And it only cost me $400. Hell yeah! Guys, please show your friends this video. We need it to get at least 500,000 views for Christ's sake. And that, my friends, was how I got the Rivers of Blood Katana in 2024 without fighting anything. Thank you all so much for watching, and please consider subscribing for more videos just like this one. And before I go, if you'd like to know how to do this yourself, I have a video linked in the description as well as here at the end. Peace.